Welcome to Politics Done Right. My name is Egberto Willies, your host. Thank you so kindly for being here on KPFT 90.1 FM Houston, as well as all throughout the world on the internet, that great old internet. In the studio today, we have the one and only Tori Mercer, who will be handling the boards and the phones and all the good stuff in there. Thank you. And of course, there's the one and only who is in the... Wait, is he running? He's running. Who else is in there? Howard! How you doing, Howard? And of course, my beautiful daughter is in the room with me, Ashley Willies. How you doing, Ashley?
I am doing well. Good afternoon.
Well, you know, I'm telling you something. I think you're hot. I think you're hot. What we want to do, right, today is a special program. Of course, I wrote an essay for the program, the blog that goes out on our newsletter. But I would love to hear a lot of input from folks because the way things turns out to be, we are negative a whole lot of times. And I want to add a superb amount of positivity along with the negative. Because, you know, when you are making a difference, when you are out there shooting for something, it gives you that more impetus to go out there and execute, and it also eliminates a lot of the negativity. So the title of the show today is, what kind of America do you want? Tell me if you want to live in my America. And the subtitle of the show, if I can read it, is, America is still the richest country in the world. It could create a humane template that could guide the world into a new existence. And, you know, I want you guys to engage with me. So call me at 713-526-5738 and hit option 2 to come directly on air with me. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hit option 2. What kind of America do you want? What are the things that you would really like in America? Like I said, I have an essay to start with, but if you call right now and tell me, I will cater it towards what folks that are listening are thinking about. 713-526-5738. Option 2, the question of the day is what kind of America do you want? Do you want to live in that America that I yearn for, that my daughter yearns for, that your family yearns for? All right. 713-526-5738. We are often negative whenever we discuss politics. The phrase, if it bleeds, it leads. We should also allow aspirational narratives with the potential for success to lead and to let us aspire, right? I mean, you feel better if you're doing something, if you're going for a goal, if you have a shining star that you're looking towards, that you want to get to, where you want to move forward. You're aspiring for it. I'm not talking about aspiration on the of the impossible. I'm talking about aspiration of the possible, right? So what kind of America can we aspire for that is realistic? What kind of world can we aspire for that is possible? Are there enough resources on the planet to give everyone a comfortable life? Of course there are. Do we have enough water? Do we have enough food? Is there enough available space for everyone? There is no doubt that the answer is yes. How can we come to that conclusion after too much research or with not too much research? Because we live in the world today that supports its current state, if extraordinarily inequitable. In other words, the truth of the matter is, with the amount of people we have on this planet right now, with the amount of resources that we have on this planet right now, everyone continues to exist. Everyone continues to be fed. Again, it's inequitable, but we continue. So what type of America do you want? 713-526 5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. And many say that we're greedy, but is it really so? So what does America look like? This morning I woke up with that on my mind after some called me idealistic. I was doing some chatting last night. Believe it or not, sometimes you can get onto a very live TikTok and see what the heartbeat of America feels like, sounds like, is doing, right? And this guy said that I negate human nature. The thing is, he says, you're too idealistic. The thing is, I believe in not just human nature, but I also believe in human nurture. I want you to understand the difference. Human nature is what we are inherently. Human nurture is what we become from our surroundings, right? The thing is, I believe in human nurture. In other words, our environment influences most of us positively, or for that matter, negatively. I contend that our economic system, in many instances created by psychopaths, have created an environment that nurtures to many. Roberto, come on in.
Good morning, everyone. Good morning, Planeta Tierra.
How you doing,
Good
Roberto?
morning. Bien. So, I was listening to your show, and I think that you're going to have a very powerful show today. I like your subtitle. You're putting the fact about what America is today.
Right.
There are several things that I would like to initiate here. In my humble opinion, with what's going on in America right now, America is still one of the best country that you can be in.
Agreed.
And I'm saying that because I'm a traveler and I'm an explorer. What I would like to see more in America is more equality, more justice for everyone. Cost of living, of the factor of medical bills.
Right.
I think pharmaceutical is one of the biggest ripoff that you can see here in America. We need more economic power, not for one set of people, but for all people.
Absolutely.
All. And I will leave on this stake here. If we pull together and if we understand the whole process of what America is really built of, I think we can make some changes. The factor is that most of things that's happening in America is because that no change in the magnitude wants to happen. In other words, with the legislator and everybody else up in high position, rules and regulation needs to be changed.
Right.
If not, things going to continue being the way it is. Yes, we have problem here in America. Yes, we get corruption. But if you're checking most countries, there's corruption everywhere you go.
Roberto, I'm glad you said what you said, right? Because I want to interrupt you for one quick second because you said something important. We have our problems, but we are a great country. We have the ability to change. And if we go out there all and be a part of this system, we can effect that change. So when a lot of folks, when you talk about these issues, they think you're down in America. We're not down in America. We're saying this is a place where we can always make things better. And that's the beauty of having the freedom of speech, and what we have to do or what we can do, we can make it better. Go ahead, Roberto.
Yes, and lastly, if America was not a great country, I don't think a lot of us. When I mean us, I mean from all ethnic culture group will join the military and give our life for freedom to continue the magnitude of what America is built on.
Well, I know you're an Iraq survivor. So you served in Iraq. In fact, you've given me calls at times when bombs were
Correct.
flying. So I've always, anytime we speak about that, I remember to tell people I've been on the phone with you when bombs were falling.
Yes, sir.
You know, but
Yes,
anyhow,
sir.
look.
But
Roberto,
anyway,
go ahead.
lastly,
Yes.
lastly, on the take on this here,
Yes.
we cannot only thank KPFT that to broadcast all of this here, but the factor that Politics Done Right has been engaged for several years and has been informing the minds of others. And we just want to thank Politics Done Right for not only informing, but we are engaging, sharing our thoughts, and we all get differences, and that's what politics is all about.
Right.
So we just want to thank you, Egberto, for continuing with Politics Right and sharing the minds of powers that can be made to help change this nation that we live in.
Thank you, my brother. Appreciate your call. And you keep listening, keep calling, and keep telling people about us. I love you, man. All right?
Yes, sir.
Take
All
care,
right,
my
take
man.
care.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
All right, let's go to Ted. Ted, you're on. Oh, did Ted hang up? All right, Ted, give us a call back. Ted, give us a call back, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. We are still kind of playing with these phones to make sure we get it all right. 713-526-5738. Hit option 2 to get in. I want to remind everybody that on the KPFT Facebook page, we are also streaming live. In fact, our GM just came in here and showed us that, he just got all this stuff set up. So we're now streaming on the internet. Before I continue with the essay, Ashley, I saw you writing down a whole lot of things. Was that pertaining to the subject at all?
Yes, it was. Because I'm young and addicted to social media, I have some pros on social media that I try to essentially apply to what you wrote in your Substack. And one of them was, I think, it was based off a post that Tracy Ellis Ross had posted, and she was working out, and her instructor had told her, you need to look at what you're doing.
Let me ask you to hold the thought right there. Let's go to Ted, and we'll come back to you, Ashley. Ted, come on in. You're on the line.
Hey, obviously, I think we'd all pretty much agree that we need a world where, I envision a world where everybody has enough to eat, adequate medical care, and that's just because they're human.
Right.
And then you also have the aspirational thing where you can make more money and become a billionaire or whatever by creating great works of art or, great business models or, doing something. And of course, the environment is the big thing now.
Right.
That we've just destroyed the environment. I mean, we just, and a big part of that is probably going to have to be population, lowering the birth rate significantly, which is incidentally happening.
Right.
In the wealthy countries now, we have America, Europe, Japan, even China. They're having a real drop in the birth rate.
Actually, it's negative for some of those countries that you just mentioned there, Ted.
Yeah. So, in fact, I think it's Africa and India are the only two major places. And they're, of course, the forest. And it's not all of India. It's northern India.
Right.
So that's a big step in the right direction. That's one of the things that, because fewer people is fewer pollution, right? Less pollution.
Right.
But the thing I noticed is it seems to me that, and I hate to be negative, but I mean how negative the opposition is. I mean, did you see the governor of Florida?
Yes.
He just decided that there's a group of investors that want to, invest money only in businesses that are carbon neutral,
right.
that are not destroying the environment. And him and a few other, Southern governors said, "Oh, well, we're gonna take all our money out of them just because they're trying to help the environment."
Let me tell you,
this
Ted,
just blows me away.
I know. Let me tell you something, Ted. Right? We and this is where the kind of politics that I want to provide in my activism that I do not only here at KPFT but in the other places where I do this kind of work, and it is very important. We have to outdo those who are negative. In other words, they're not going to change on their own volition. We are going to have to outlove them. And I really mean that. Most people.
You mean we can't eat them? Oh.
Hey, Ted, let me tell you what happens. Okay, we are going to have to outlove them, and I really mean that. We're going to have to show them that we can survive without being like them, and that it feels a lot. People are going to have to see that it feels a lot better to treat your fellow human being, whomever they are, much better than these folks who want to go around hating on people. And this goes, and that is the kind of stuff I promote. I don't want to toot my horn, but I wrote a book called It's Worth It, How to Talk to Your Right-Wing Relatives, Friends, and Neighbors. And that's where I kind of put that out. Nobody is my enemy. I mean...
Actually, I found it pretty inspirational.
Well, thank you.
Honest.
Yeah. So that is where I want us to be, right? Where we can say, I can speak to everybody, anybody, etc. But Ted, I got another caller. Let me ask you if you want to say something else.
Well, thanks for listening to me.
Thank you so kindly for calling. Keep calling. And, remember, this is your home. All right, let's go to Julia. Julia, you're on.
Oh, hi. I just wanted to correct the last caller. I think it's the last caller, the caller before that, who said Africa was poor. It is the richest continent. It is only poor because of the West.
Let me stop you for a second there, because first of all, stop for a second, Julia. I want to thank you. Because usually when I hear something like that, I would have immediately say, hey, Brother Ted, don't forget by what definition a lot of that is occurring. So continue, Julia, but thank you. That is what we get out of a dynamic call-in. Go ahead and continue, Julia.
Yes, we are the richest continent. And if we're poor because we are constantly being ripped off by the West. 6 schools a few months ago in Africa, all leaders trained here or by the West. It is not a coincidence. That's what's going on. That's why we're considered poor. But we are rich, and we are rich in spirit, and Africa will reign again. We gave the world everything. We taught the world all it knows, including every major religion, and that's all I have to do. I just wanted to correct your caller.
Okay, well, look, but
thank you for your show.
But don't leave yet, Julia, because I want to engage you a bit. I actually want to say something.
I wanted to hop in. I love that because, I'm a TikToker. So I was listening to Dr. Neil.
Yeah.
And
Neil deGrasse.
Yes, he was speaking about the continent of Africa and how essentially a lot of the answers to the questions that we have lie in that continent, since it's the birthplace of
humanity.
Life.
Yeah.
And so, just if you think about it, so it's the most genetically diverse continent in the world, and that means that the smartest person is there, the dumbest person is there, the fastest person is there, the slowest person is there. It's so diverse that if you want to find extremes or commonalities, it's going to be in that continent. And I found that very, very
interesting. But every continent, I'm sorry.
Oh, no worries, please.
Yes, go ahead.
Huh?
Go ahead, ma'am.
Go ahead, ma'am, Julia.
No, I'm sorry to interrupt. I was just going to say, every continent, when it comes to the diversity of intelligence and brain, that's
right.
it. America, everybody got the extreme, brilliant people and very stupid people.
Right.
I'm just saying that's all. I just,
Yes, but anyway, but you're right, and I don't just for the caller that before I think we all say things that and this is why I talk about all of us talking to each other all of the times, because most of the things we say are things that are repeated over and over again, and no matter whether it's true or false, it becomes a truth if it's repeated long enough, and that is what we have to try to cater our society away. In my humble opinion, we have to start trying to really communicate. Anything else, Julia, before you go?
No, just keep the conversation going. That's great. We do need to come together at some point. And the other thing I want to say, and I am starting an organization, to part of the problem is ignorance.
Right.
When one culture continuously dominates, and that's all you learn about, the Greeks did that. And the sad part is we taught the Greeks. And if you go back to the literature, they will admit it. Herodotus, father of history, said, we learned everything from the Egyptians. And he described them as black with woolly hair. But it gets lost in history, and so you're looked at as less than because the only history you know about is the dominant one. I just wanted to add that.
No, that is correct, and that's why we communicate. Thank you so kindly for calling, Julia. You've expanded our horizon.
Thank you so much for accepting my call.
You have a wonderful day now.
You too. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye. All right, Ashley, you were talking about something else earlier when it came to the kind of America that we want. I thought you had something to say.
Oh, right. Yeah, I was just trying to use a kind of a metaphor for how this person was instructed to look at what she was doing because she knows how to improve upon it or tweak it to get to where she needs to go. And what I think is kind of a little abstract, I'm like, okay, so if I'm going to use that, I would like us to be able, like us Americans, to be able to be okay with looking at ourselves. So instead of being scared of what we may see, because I think we are right now scared of what we may see. So I think that if you aren't looking, how can you know what to change?
Exactly.
And so if it needs changing even.
Right.
And so you have to essentially check up on yourself and see, all right, I'm going to look at what seems to be not working or what is working and see what I can take what is working and apply it to what isn't working or just change what isn't working. That's what I got. And then I just hope that in the future people are more empowered because I feel like people feel pretty powerless right now and they're afraid to speak out against anyone or anything for fear of
repercussion.
Repercussion. So I really, it really resonated with me.
And let me tell you, what I like is, first of all, I have a lot in this essay, but I wanted to hear other people's voices, your voice, Julia's voice, Ted's voice, Roberto's voice, etc. Now, in our chat, we have Bridge MCP, Lee Grant, and Eric. Eric says, you bring some freshness. He says, Ashley could be the cool one. So I guess you're going to be the cool one and I won't be. Now, but I have an exception. And by the way, folks, you can give us a call at 713-526-5738, 713-526-5738. And we are now also streaming on the KPFT website. Later on, I'll tie this all in so that our other websites can actually tie into that one as well. But anyway, Eric Hayes says, not being ripped off by the East, looked at investment by other countries. We get that. But if you listen to exactly what Julia was intending to say, in fact, Africa has a lot of natural resources that hadn't benefited many of the inhabitants of Africa because, again, the resources were taken many a times by force. She's absolutely right about that. Lee Grant says, I don't believe every continent is equal. Some cultures are more successful than others. Look, some cultures are more successful by others. You forgot one particular additive, and that is why are some cultures more successful than others? Let me give a good example.
But what does successful mean?
You read my mind.
I'm just wondering, does that mean do some societies, are they richer than others or do they live longer?
What is interesting actually is the following, right? Mm-hmm. I have a microprocessor, right? And some may look at that as advanced technology, right? Mm-hmm. That I can build a microprocessor that does a whole lot of things. Somebody else may know how to plant and grow things in a particular way that I'm using this microprocessors to do billions of computations to get down to how to best grow something that somebody who uses something other than von Neumann technology to do something. So what I'm saying is we have learned to look at skyscrapers as being that defines what a rich country can do with steel and cement. But somebody may decide that we can build things with palm trees that are very much more efficient than a concrete building. Which is better, because we consider technology steel and concrete, or that you can use the natural resources to build. So that question that you just asked is fundamental. What does successful culture mean? Being able to build a nuclear plant, or being able to build a plant based on natural resources.
Or for the society to be happy where they are.
That's another good one. A society,
are they okay with being themselves? Are they okay with, I have my mom, I have my dad, I have my family, clothes, food to eat, a nice dry place to sleep. That could be success as well.
Yes, because it doesn't, and I think that is what our economic system, I think, and I'm going to make a mention about that in the thing if nobody else calls in when I continue with the essay. But that is what I think is so important. We have learned to define. Go ahead, Tori, you want to say something? Your mic is not good.
Hello, can you hear me now?
Yeah, but you're not on your particular mic. You're on some other mic.
Okay, can you hear me now?
Yes, I can.
Well, from the history department here, successful civilizations or, advanced civilizations, I don't know how you even define that, but historically they all developed around navigable rivers.
Right.
From the early, Tigris and Euphrates
what does that tell you?
To Mississippi. And, Europe has lots of navigable rivers. Africa only has the Nile. The other rivers have too many waterfalls. You can't get up and down them. You can't get across country, and so there's less communication,
right,
and less cross-cultural. I think cultures develop when they're in contact with other cultures, and so rivers help that to happen.
That is a very good point as far as, but I want to add Ashley's point to that, which I think is important. What is success? Is success an amalgamation of multiple cultures, or can it be just being what she said, that we are happy with being able to live? You follow?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I think that's important. That's important. I love microprocessors. I program them. But I also have a lot of friends in Panama who have simple businesses, and I think they would consider themselves quite a bit more successful than I am.
I think I would probably say I would like to live in a society where it's not a privilege to age. No, I'm so serious. It sounds ridiculous, but aging is actually a privilege. That means you have been healthy for so long that you can live long.
Oh, I misunderstood what you said.
Yes.
Yeah,
So
that makes sense.
Do you have the privilege of aging? So that if everyone's worried about what they look like, congratulations on your 25,000 wrinkles.
Right.
Because those wrinkles have sustained you through 80 years.
Right.
And that's really awesome. People really aren't that fortunate to live that long.
713-526-5738. What type of America? I'm going to get technical if I don't get calls that with people asking questions. I have a full essay that I'm going to go through. So Lee Grant, I think we kind of answered the question or the statement that you made that says a culture where men will stone a woman to death for being rapid is a bad culture. Yeah, but let's not distinguish between that type of a culture. I mean,
the Salem witch trials?
Or
what he's talking about?
No, he's talking about the stoning, let's say, that happened in Arab countries. A lot of folks on the right, whenever they are discussing cultures, in order to build up I don't believe in building up or in putting down any other culture to say that the Western culture is good. But a lot of folks on the right have a tendency they think they have to demean other cultures to say the Western culture is good, when the Western culture is an amalgamation of all cultures around the world.
Well, it goes back to what I was trying to say, where we have to be okay with being uncomfortable and looking back at ourselves. So you're like, okay, a country is a great country that doesn't stone their women. Well, we were a country that literally burned people at the stake.
Right.
And hung people from trees and thought it was pretty and fun. Or how when torture used to be an actual entertainment spectacle. That's here also in Europe. People used to go to beheadings for entertainment. So I cannot point fingers at another culture when the culture that I happen to be a part of has done crazy wild things in the past.
Couldn't have been said any better. That couldn't have been said any better. I hope, Lee Grant, you follow that. We could use metrics for successful cultures like a number of patents, most publications. Not really. I don't know how if a patent is you need to read my book as I see it, Class Warfare, the only resort to right-wing doom. And the reason I said that is because I've distinctly spoken about patents and how patents have stifled innovation in the United States of America and in the Western world. Patents. So when you're looking, Brother Lee, and you say we could use metrics for successful cultures like number of patents and most publications.
Well, let's bring in socioeconomics here,
right?
Because that totally triggered me. Because if you think about it, there is a genius in a ghetto somewhere,
right?
But they can't get a patent because they are not, quote unquote, educated enough to be, I guess, smart enough, quote unquote, or whatever, to get access to that. The access to a patent is not equal.
Exactly.
So measuring the amount of patents that something has, patents only matter in Western cultures.
Right.
So if I go to another country, it's like, oh, I have a patent for that. That means nothing in a culture where that patent
and that is
doesn't apply.
That is so important, Asha, because I'm telling you, you just said there's a genius in the ghetto, just like what Degrassi had to talk about, the geniuses that are unknown, because that's not what we are doing.
I'm thinking the TV show, I'm sorry.
Okay, but anyhow, folks, 713-526-5738. Again, that number is 713-526-5738. Hit the number 2 to get in. 713-526-5738. Hit the number 2 to get in. Lee Grant says, U.S. patents have little meaning in China. You answered your own question, Lee. There you go. And the reason why is they take it up. Look, Bezos stopped me from developing a cart when he went ahead and patented one click on Amazon.
But I think in order to use something even like patents or even whatever, you have to have a universal system that can be measured. So like, for example, just to put it to numbers, everyone else uses the metric system, but we use the
English system, which makes no sense.
Yeah, so it's
even
like,
England, who developed the English system, doesn't use the English system.
No, because it doesn't translate across cultures. And actually, if you are in science, any kind of science, even in medicine, we learn things that were in America in the English system, but we still also learn right next to it is the Celsius, is the metric system, is kilograms and centimeters and all of that.
Well, in engineering, that's what we do.
Right,
we
because
do metric.
Because it's in tens.
Right.
So it's so simple. It's not based upon a random king's foot. You know.
All right. I didn't know that it was based on a random.
Yeah, it's an arbitrary thing. It's like some king's foot.
Okay.
And then that's how big that's how big his foot was.
I didn't know that. Anyhow, 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. You guys are going to let me get serious now with my essay. I wanted to keep it a little bit light today. 713-526-5738. All right, going to the essay. Again, what kind of America do you want? Tell me if you want to live in my America. Okay, back to the essay. So what does my America look like? This morning I woke up with that on my mind. After someone called me idealistic, he said that I negate human nature. The thing is, I believe in human nurture. In other words, our environment influences most of us positively or, for that matter, negatively. I contend that our economic system, in many instances, created by psychopaths, has created an environment that nurtures too many negatively. In other words, it has made so many people do all the wrong things. Many say human nature includes greed and violence. I want to repeat that. Many say human nature includes greed and violence. If that were the case, income and wealth disparity would be impossible. After all, greed would have us all fighting to take away from the other. Most people are good. The hoarders or psychopaths, as they try to hold on to as much as they can to the detriment of others, even as they could not possibly use all of said wealth. Last year, I wrote a book called How to Make America Utopia, Take Away the Economy from Those Who Rigged It, which discuss all of these realities. I asked many questions in the first chapter, and I want to read some of those questions. I put it right here in the newsletter. And by the way, you can go to the newsletter at politicsdoneright.com/newsletter, politicsdoneright.com/newsletter. It says the following. Why do most Americans continue to accept a system that moves so slowly in empowering one group after another. Remember, what kind of America would we like? First, we have to mitigate that. Why do we allow that? Why is it that women, right, who make up more than half of America, allow men to run the church, allow men to run the corporations, allow men in the aggregate to have all the power when we know intrinsically, mentally speaking, intelligent-wise, they are just as intelligent as men? Why? That's the world I want to change, to make the America we want.
Can I add a fun fact?
You had a fun fact.
Okay, so fun fact, in developmental biology, everyone essentially, the default is female. So you have to have what changes from female to male, like what starts it sometimes, it's
Right.
a chromosome, the Y chromosome, right?
Right.
And that tells the body, okay, wait, this person is going to be a female. Let's deviate. So it's like a branch almost. You have the tree, and the male species is the branch. Like, oh, we were female, and then, oops, Y chromosome, turn right.
So-
like that's
So
what
you're
it is.
actually saying we all started out as females.
We all started off as females, and because there are disorders and conditions where a person has a Y chromosome, but they are female presenting.
Right.
Because that chromosome was inactive
Right.
at the time of their development.
Got that, Doc. All right. Why do Americans continue to support politicians who refuse to establish a healthcare system that takes care of all of its citizens like every major industrialized country in the world? Why? What kind of America do you want? Wouldn't you want an America that has healthcare that don't take away your home, healthcare that you can afford? That's the America I want. Why do Americans continue to support a criminal justice system unfair to people of color and all of the poor people, irrespective of color, even though their country preaches morality to the rest of the world? Now think about that. If you're poor, you're a person of color, go to the jails and see criminality is really across the board. But look at your jails. And that, if you think the America that you want, is that what the America that you want? You know it's not, because you want to ensure that people come out ahead. Why do Americans continue to tolerate an unequal educational system where public education is proportional to the wealth of the school district where we reside? Time out there. What does that really mean? Those of you who live in the Humboldt School District or the Katy School District in this area, your schools are well funded because it is based upon the amount of industry and tax rates in that school. But if you are unlucky to be born in certain districts, your school is begging for cash to survive. Yet, when as a state we tried something called Robin Hood to equalize some, folks squat. A true equitable society, not equal society, but equitable society, ensures that everybody has equal access to success. Isn't that the America that you would like? Why do Americans accept public college systems that leaves most students in debt? Are the students not getting an education to move society forward? Are students not getting an education to ensure that corporations can stay alive? Are students not getting an education so that we as a country can survive? So again, why is it that we are asking so many to bet their future financial security and well-being on debt? Something that enriches just a few. Because believe me, when you're paying those bills back, you are enriching just a few. Why do Americans give corporations the same rights we give human beings? A lot of people don't even know this. Corporations, just like you have a social security number, every human being has a social security number in America. Every human in America, that is. Every corporations have an equivalent of a social security number in this country. And they are an independent entity. They are, legally speaking, they are an entity. They believe that they have rights. They can donate as that company. They can act as that company. They can, and whenever you try to stop them from doing certain things, they said, by the way, we've got free speech. Yeah, but you're a company. Did you want to say something? Okay. You're a company. But that's what we have. Corporations are not people. What do you want to say?
I wanted to say that I was given advice at one point to, I guess when I get older and more established in a career, to also have an LLC in your own name so that if any issues happen, the LLC will take the fall and not the person, which means that the LLC is like you have a corporation now, right? But then that means that corporation is a person.
Yes. In fact,
yeah.
That is how, that's how corporations screw Americans all the time. They, if you have a corporation that does some damage, that corporations go bankrupt. But the people who run the corporations are fine because they have this stuff known as the corporate veil. In other words, you are a corporation, you're your own person. If that corporation does something, they're the guilty party. Trump's corporation just got convicted of 20-something, or I think 17 or 20-something laws that they broke, and they got convicted. But you can't put a corporation in jail, but you can fine them, and that's what, So, I mean, why would we allow that, right? We've allowed corporations to be their own entity. And by the way, for my thing, LLCs have other purposes as well, right?
I didn't mean to dig at LLCs. I'm just saying that it can technically be a person.
Yeah, it is a person. It is an individual. My LLC has its own social security number.
Oh, right. Sorry.
It's not social security. It's something else that it's called. All right. And now, why do Americans allow politicians to spend more than the next 9 or so countries combined for a defense we will never need or could ever use? We spend, this year alone, we're going to be spending about $850 billion in our military budget. And most of that equipment is going to go unused. Most of that equipment is going to be melted down. It's going to be sold. It's there almost to fund other people. But the America that we want, couldn't we divert half of that somewhere else? Couldn't we divert half of that money that we collect from all the Americans, and instead of putting it into building bombs, build windmills, build solar plants, build water desalination, given that Colorado is going to be without water in the next year or two? I mean, there is so much more that we can have the choice to do if we decide to make the America that we want. 713-52. These lines are empty today. Steve told me, Egberto, it wasn't all that ringy. So 713-526-5738. 713-526-5738. You can call in now and get on air now. Hit the number 2 to get on air. 713-526-5738. British MCP says, frogs and some others have the ability to change their sex based on environment. I think she was listening to your information. So they can change. And let's see, Lee Grant says, mentally, men generally have better minds for math and physics. For instance, there are no female Fields Prize winners. I don't know if that... There are no, which comes first, the chicken or the egg? When you say that no women have won the Fields Prize, what does that? I don't know that says anything. Women are no less intelligent than men. That goes over from our patriarchic way of being. Isn't that right, Ashley?
Yeah, a woman created the X-ray. Yeah, in France.
Right.
Like a woman did that. A woman is the one who actually showed the world what the structure of DNA was. It wasn't, so everyone's like, yeah, Watson and Crick, but it's actually that there's a third person. It was the woman. They just left her off. Right. I think she sued, actually. But yeah.
What gets me is, women have been disadvantaged for millennials, right? And so if women have been disadvantaged for millennials, it comes to pass that the invention rates that you will see will be biased towards men. You cannot judge how many Nobel Prizes were given. I noticed not Ted, but my brother here, Lee Grant, likes to use a lot of these things that the Nobel Prize and all these other things without taking into account that there are a lot of other things that matter, sir. There are a lot of other things that matter and it doesn't have anything to do, very little to do with the real raw intelligence. 713-526-5738. What kind of America would you like? 713-526-5738. Hit option 2. Folks are quite silent today. We had 4 callers, but let's get some more. 713-526-5738. Hit option 2, and you'll get on air. Continuing with my list. Why do Americans allow working person's income to be taxed at a higher rate than investor income? Of some of the one of the things that should get most Americans upset is as follows. You go to any street in this country, and at 7 o'clock, and you see people are hustling to work. You go into the skyscrapers in Houston. You go into the homes in Houston. You go all over Houston. And what you find are people going to work. But you have a rich guy sitting at his pool in his mansion, and he owns a lot of stocks in several companies. And he sits there with a chip on his shoulder saying, I make my money work for me. Which doesn't make any sense. Nobody makes their money work for them. Making your money work for you is equivalent to somebody else doing the work for you. Don't ever forget that. So anytime you tell somebody my money works for me, remember what you're saying is somebody else is working. Tracy, you're hot. Come on in.
Thank you. Yeah. I've listened, I understand your perspective that there's a lot of inequality going on in the world. And it's always been that way.
Sure.
Even in the future, it'll always be, some people always will have more and some people will have less, relatively speaking. If you move backwards 150 years, people didn't have electricity.
Right.
Now many people have electricity and lighting. So there's always going to be that tension between people that have more and people that, relatively speaking, are richer but have less.
Right.
And I think that's the dichotomy with trying to make it all, everybody gets the same vanilla ice cream or something.
Right.
Because it's kind of an impossible task. I mean, you can push that idea, and I think it's best pushed through the free enterprise system because I believe that business, even with all its faults,
right,
still has more of a solution to problems than, say, top-down or government solutions. Government may supply, lean in their direction, but so my theory of economics, I was an economics major, but is to let that pony ride, and there'll be some, maybe some unhappiness, but there's always that happening.
Let me interrupt a second.
Never reach it.
Tracy, let me interrupt a second because I want to ask you a few questions. First of all, I don't believe there's a difference between equality and equity, or I believe in equal access to success. I work hard. I work 16 hours a day. I'm pretty sure you work hard as well.
I did work hard.
There you go. So now, if somebody only puts in 8 hours a day, of course, it lends to be that maybe I will have more than that other person, right? I am not at all. I don't believe in everybody getting the same amount of money and all of that kind of stuff. I believe in everybody having equal access to success, which is very different. I believe in equity. In other words,
well, it is different, but it's still a challenging problem because equal access to success is not really achievable. I mean, in the true sense, that utopian. But I mean, yes, a lot of people have much more access than they ever had before. I mean, there are a lot of
Tracy, why do you think we don't have equal? Why don't you think we can have equal access to success?
Well, what I'm saying is, okay, it's kind of a hard thing to describe or to wrap around in a few minutes on the radio.
Yeah.
But because of the nature of man, or mankind, you might say. I mean, right now, Americans have more access to education and to opportunities, and there than many countries in the world. You know, take for example, African nations were among the poorest. So, I mean, you want to revolutionize the world, have equal access, or just the United States, or just a county, or
the article that I wrote, it really starts with the United States. But I want to make a correction about poor in Africa, because we had a caller, Julia, who called in earlier to correct us when somebody else said Africa was poor, and without giving any context. And I think it is so important that we give context that Africa is in fact the richest nation on our planet.
Continent.
The African continent. The African continent is the richest continent on our planet, but it has been exploited.
Probably natural
resources. Yes.
Right. I mean, they probably have natural resources, and I can't speak to that.
Right.
You know, hours and hours of why over hundreds of thousands of years things have turned out the way they have in terms of sophistication versus non-sophisticated.
Well, you
economies.
know, Tracy, it goes in cycles, right? I mean, Egypt was once the center of the world. Greece was once the center of the world. Certain parts of Africa that we may not know about millennials ago may have been the center of the world. Then we've seen some very intricate structures in very southern Africa that people can't figure out how these things were built. So I mean, I think that right now we are the premier country in the world right now, but there are a lot of things that I see that we're doing right now that if we don't make the best of America, it can change. Go ahead, sir.
You know, I just called out of the blue. What is your name again?
I'm speaking to Egberto. You're speaking to Egberto.
Who?
Egberto.
Egberto?
Yes.
Like H-E-R? Okay, Berto.
E-G-B-E-R-T-O.
One more time?
E-G-B-E-R-T-O. And you can, let me tell you first of all, before you go any further, politicsdoneright.com, you can find everything about the program and all of that.
Okay, I will.
But go ahead, make your point, sir.
Well, I mean, one of the things that kind of maybe not everybody's really disturbed about it, but you can read in whatever sources we have that China is, going to certain African nations and making huge loans to them.
Yes. And
for development. And then, of course, once you're in debt, which go back to student debt, but once you're in debt, climbing out of debt is one of the most difficult things that, nations or humans can do. And I'm just going to make a personal observation. I've watched, just on a very limited basis, some of the students that get, these loans. Mm-hmm. The thing is that when you borrow, in order to borrow money, you should at least have paid off a small loan, to prove that you have the discipline to achieve that. And I don't think I've seen students that live, they run around with cell phones and, and stay in hotels, go on trips and everything, and have a fairly good lifestyle. But when they comes to paying it back, they go, oh my God, I got to pay this back.
Let me tell you what concerns me about that, right? You are saying something that is true, not only for people who have student loans, but for people who have credit card loans, for people who have home loans, all of what you've said that the bad things that you have students doing with student loans are the bad things that people do with car loans, home loans, and every other type of loan, right? So what I found is a lot of folks on the right in the recent years have been, in order for us not to have things like student loan forgiveness, have created all these stories by highlighting a lot of people who did bad things, as you indicated. I mean, I can't dispute what you said, right? But most people do the right thing.
I don't really know how many people are,
right. I know.
All I'm saying is that, before you extend credit, you should probably have some sort of getting credit.
I get what you're saying, but here's my thing. My thing is that we should not have had to, if the America that I want, we should not have had to extend credit for college. College is to prepare people for society, prepare people for business, prepare people for all these things, right? And I think just like high school, we eventually realized that high school, we needed to make it free. Not free, but all of us pay for it. The same should apply for college and trade schools, etc. So that I don't know if there's you need to watch a program on CNN that they put out yesterday. It was a great program on how the crookedness occurred in student loans, right? What we have to do, in my humble opinion, is we should not have even been talking about these people having student loans in the first place, right? So it is just a corrupt system. But look, we are going to have to talk about that another time, Tracy, but I love you.
Well, thanks for taking my call. Okay?
Absolutely. Thank you so kindly for calling in, my friend, okay?
All right.
You take care now. All right, let me kind of finish this up. I'm not going to get it done completely because I really wanted to hear more from what I wanted out of the program. I don't think we got enough of the calls to justify it. I sort of wanted to build a list from those that are listening to our show as far as what you would want America to look like. But let me finish the essay real quickly. Why do Americans allow the working person's income to be taxed at a higher rate than investor income? There should never be a time when somebody who does real work, have to pay more in taxes than a person who makes their income off of your work. It should never be the case, and unfortunately, that is what we have. It looks like we're going to get to put one more call in here, so let's go ahead when he's ready to bring Michelle. You're on the air.
Hi, yes. Can you hear me?
Yes, Michelle.
Yes.
Go ahead, Michelle. Yes, I can hear you. Go ahead, Michelle.
So I wanted to circle back to your other caller questioning Africa and the richness of the continent. And I think you tried to bring in Egypt, but even before Egypt, there was Timbuktu.
Right.
And you can go back to the history of Africa and the resources and just the amount of education that they brought forth from Africa. You can look in Sudan and find the same similar pyramids that you find in Egypt.
Right.
And all up and down the Nile River from Uganda on down to South Africa.
Right.
So the fact that they have the natural resources, not only the resources, but the education of the people, the resources and resilience of the people, the education of the people. So I think we want to take away the continent and remove the people from it. But that continent is so great and so rich and has survived intact for so long because the inhabitants of that continent, the original inhabitants, really appreciated and learned to live amongst what they had and to emphasize what they had. Not bringing in things from the outside and not destroying their natural environment, but living amongst it and enriching it.
Michelle,
and that's why you have the preservation of so many things there that we can look back on today.
Michelle, thank you very much for that. I got to go because it's, well, folks, it looks like we went a little bit over. This is Egberto Willies with Politics Done Right. And you know how I end this, baby. I am what? Out. We spend a lot of time deconstructing the news, trying to parse it into a form that everybody can understand. We try to find those little nitpicks where it flies above the fray, etc. If you really like these videos that we do, I want to ask a big favor. Please go ahead. Number 1, subscribe to our channel. And number 2, please join if you can. Thank you so kindly for watching. Keep watching. Please remember to share. We must populate the entire internet with our progressive message, a message that we know is what most Americans say that they want. So help us, please join.